Hi guys, Jay Knowlton here once again, and today I just want to make a video of an experience I had yesterday as of recording this video, which would have been Sunday. Sunday was JLPT Day in Japan, but not for me. Yesterday was HSK Day. And just to go back a few steps, so the JLPT, for those who don't know, is the Japanese language proficiency test, the Nihongo no Ryoku Shiken, Nihongo being Japanese, no Ryoku being ability, Shiken being test. So the Japanese language proficiency test, which is basically the most commonly taken test to test one's in Japanese ability. People often kind of debate how effective it is, but it's the biggest test available. Employers do look at it if you want to work in a Japanese company. So it's better to take it. I would recommend it. However, for me, yesterday, as I mentioned, was HSK Day. And HSK is a Chinese exam. It's basically the JLPT of China. And it's a little bit different because the JLPT starts from 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 is the lowest, which happens often in Japan. So, for example, the Eiken test, which is the English test for Japanese people, well, anyone can take it, but it's in Japan, starts at level 5, although they're adding a 6 and a 7, which is just money-making nonsense. And it goes 5, 4, 3, pre-2 plus, 2, pre-1 and 1, because they just want to get as much money as they can. They obviously try to sell it as like, you're getting better and better at English, but the exam gets very expensive, and if you're trying to take level by level, more and more money spent. So the HSK starts from level 1 being the easiest, and then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And basically, if you get to level 4, that's basically business level Chinese. And then 5 onwards is like if you're really weird and just want to be really, really good at Chinese. It's kind of similar to the Japanese exam. I've got the book here actually, the Kanji Kente, which is the Japanese exam for kanji. I guess it's self-explanatory. That starts at level 10, which is like first grade of elementary school, and then it goes 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Basically, getting to level 3 plus is like unnecessary. And if you do get 3, 2, and 1, it's kind of like, oh yeah, you know your stuff. So, yesterday I took the level 3, the HSK 3 exam. Now, something interesting that I've done is that I'm studying Chinese using both Japanese and English. So I use a variety of different things. So for example, I use Duolingo. The success or the actual effectiveness of Duolingo is questionable. However, I passed level 1 and 2 of the Chinese exam only using Duolingo. And basically everything that was on this level 3 test I've learned on Duolingo as well. I've just brushed up using a book and other things like YouTube. So, although Duolingo is not going to help you speak Chinese, at least you're going to learn enough vocabulary to pass the first few exams, which is pretty cool. So yeah, yesterday I was just lining up to take the exam. And one of the things that I like doing with these exams, the JLPT and the HSK, you basically get to tour Japanese universities and senmongakos, which are like vocational schools. You just end up in weird places. Only once have I taken an exam that wasn't in a university, and that was when I lived in Tokyo, and they sent me to Tokyo Big Sight, which is like a big, grotesquely ugly building in the middle of Tokyo, which had like 400 people in one room. That's when I did level 2, JLPT 2, I believe. And it was daunting how many people were in one room. I don't know how they set up all the tables and chairs. But yeah, yesterday I was in the Paris Beauty College, which was in Chiba City. And yeah, you just get to see all these different places. However, I almost didn't take the exam. And that's because Japan likes to be very fiddly with names. Typically, Japanese people have two names. Like Yamada Tado, I think, is the usual one. It's like the John Smith of the Japanese names. They have a family name and then they have a first name. In the Japanese system, Japanese people cannot have middle names. And this almost caused my daughter to have a very weird name, because when my daughter was born, I was assigned to go to the city office, because obviously my wife was in hospital after having the baby. I went to the city office to register my daughter's birth. And my daughter has a middle name. Now I asked, can she have a middle name in Japan? And they were like, yeah, she can have a middle name. And I was like, oh, cool. And I was like, but it has to be attached to her first name. And so I was like, okay, so basically if my name is like Jake Douglas, it is. It would be Jake Douglas in one word rather than being separated. So I made a quick snap judgment to be like, oh, no, just her name, just a family name, and then just the name is enough. So they don't have middle names. However, I do. And many of you who are watching this video and those who live in Japan will have middle names. And you probably know already how much of a pain in the bum that is. So the reason why it became a big issue yesterday, and why it wasn't an issue when I did level 1 and level 2, and it's never been an issue with the JLPT. And the reason why I specified Japan, even though that this is a Chinese exam, the exams are managed by, governors in the countries they are held. So it's Japanese people managing it. When I signed up to the website, it only gives you 2 boxes for your name. So I put my name, Knowlton, and Jake. I have 2 middle names, as is on my passport, my residence card, all of that kind of stuff. However, if I try to put my name in many boxes, it will either say it's too long, naturally, or you cannot put spaces. So I would have had to do what it says they would have done for my daughter, where they would have squashed all the names together. However, I got to the exam, and I want you to kind of like look at this box. And then they said, get your Jukenyo, which is kind of your the paper you need to take the test. And this is what my Jukenyo looks like for the HSK. The JLPT send you a little card. And you have to get photo ID. So I got my photo ID and I got this. And then they were looking at it for a long time and looking at my picture. And at first I thought, oh, are they checking to see if the picture's really me? Because I used a very old picture of me, which looks much more thin and handsome. And the reason I did that is because for the HSK picture sign up, they use an AI detection to check if the picture's appropriate. And it wouldn't accept any other picture of my face. So what I had to do was I had to alter a picture of my face using AI to change the color of the background and the t-shirt. And it finally allowed me to do it. However, what they did say was, oh, your name on the paper and on your ID is different. And I was like, yeah, because it only has 2 boxes for my name. And they're like, oh, but your name needs to be exactly the same as it is. And I was like, look at the picture. Look at the ID. Look at my face. Would I try to pretend to be another white ginger man and take their HSK level 3 exam in their place? Do you think that would be an elaborate plan that I would try to do? Using a very similar name. And they were like, they did that thing in Japan where what they do is they get really flustered, and instead of doing the dignifying thing of saying, oh, please go sit down and then we'll come and chat with you later, they just stop the line and bring over 2 more members of staff. And it's not a big issue, but the last thing you want is to be the only non-Japanese person in the room. And actually I wasn't. There was a few other foreigners there. I think there was a few Vietnamese people. There was another white boy there, but he looked French. Don't tell me how I know. Just when you're from England, you know who is French. But he looked French, But I was stood in this line, and obviously, if they hold you up, not Japanese people, it makes you look like a dum-dum because it makes you look like you've done something stupid, and that's why they're stopping you. And they just stopped the whole line, and they called two people over and was like, look at his ID, look at his name, it's not the same. And then they said like, "Ukirare naikamo," which means he might not be able to take the exam. And I was like, motherfucker, I've taken this exam twice. I've passed level 1, I've passed level 2. I got 100% on level 2, just saying. I passed these exams with no problems. I've got the certificates with no problems. Why have you suddenly become detective and figured out, oh my god, the name is a big problem? And they said, well, toriaizu, just go sit over, suwatte kudasai. So I sat down, the chair, very flimsy for my big fat bum bum, and I was worried about that for the whole exam. But it kind of, I don't think I've passed the exam, and it's not their fault. But I can blame them afterwards by saying this caused me stress and loss of concentration. I don't think I would have passed anyway, but at least I've got a bit of an excuse. So, as I finish the exam, I'm nearest to the door, so I'm first one out. They're waiting for me outside of the room. And they said, next time, please put your whole name on the website or you won't be able to take the exam. And I was like, I explained to you already. There's only 2 boxes. It's your website, you donut. You should know that I can't put my full name. And they said, oh, but you can put 60 characters in each of the boxes. I was like, yeah, but it doesn't allow spaces. So if I squashed all the names together, it wouldn't be the same as my ID, which is your problem in the first place. And then they just said, well, try and put your full name in next time or you cannot take the exam anymore. And it's kind of like, that is such a Japanese problem where they don't understand middle names because Japanese people they don't have middle names, so they don't understand it. But they like to control these things. Whereas, for example, when I had my bank, well, I didn't have a bank. I still have my bank. When I was in the bank, I didn't have an incan at the time. So I signed and used a 4-digit code that goes together with my signature whenever I have paperwork for this bank. And when I went to the bank, they said, please sign. And they were like, your signature's wrong. And I was like, no, it isn't. It's my signature. It can't be wrong. And they said, do it again. And they're like, your signature's wrong again. I was like, no, it's not. And they said, it has to be exactly the same as when you wrote it the first time. I was like, that's not how signatures work. If you could replicate a signature exactly as it's written the first time, then someone can just copy your signature and it would be easy to copy. It's not the actual print of the signature that's important. It's the stroke of the pen and the movement and the direction. That makes the signature unique. So similar to the middle name thing, they're trying to dictate what a signature is, even though it's not natural to them. It would be like if a Japanese person gave me an incan and was like, that incan's wrong. You need to change the direction of that incan. No, the incan, you need to get a new incan. You need to print the name a bit differently. It's weird. I wouldn't dictate to a Japanese person how incan should be. So it's annoying when they try to dictate to me what my culture should be. Middle names are many cultures. And then there was a guy in my previous company from Hawaii who had 3 middle names. So good luck to him doing whatever he does in his life. This is going to sound like a bit of a weird recommendation. If you are coming to Japan and you plan to live in Japan a long time, if you plan to live here forever, unless you are like emotionally attached to your middle names, which I wish I would have done because my middle name is my dad's name, and he's a piece of crap because I've never met him, ran away when I was a baby. So why do I have to be burdened with this idiot? Anyway, that's a different story, which I'm not going to tell in a YouTube video because I've never met him, nothing to tell. But if you're not emotionally attached to your middle names, I might even recommend getting them removed by whatever your service country has, It's like one of those tests on the JLPT where you have to line up the sentence in the correct order. I would recommend getting your middle names removed by whatever service your country has. In the UK, we have deed polls, so you can get your name. I would recommend, honestly, get rid of your middle names. You don't need them. They might sound cool, gonna cause you a lot of problems. Cause you a lot of problems at the bank, cause you a lot of trouble when you get your driving license, cause you a lot of trouble when you do your HSK exam, apparently. Your middle name is going to cause you a lot of issue. On my bank book and my bank card, my name doesn't fit. So they put half of my second middle name and then wrote the rest with pen underneath, which is quite funny. So that's just one frustrating thing that happened to me in Japan yesterday. Have you got any middle names or have any trouble with middle names or had any trouble with your name at all? One other issue with my name is that my company, not my company, Peppy Kids Club, when I came to Japan, assigned the katakana to my name. But they did it based on how my name is spelt. So my name is Nalton, but it's spelled Nalton. But because it's NA, they just immediately assumed it's Nalton, and they called me Naruton. And because obviously that's on all of my stuff, my bank book and stuff like that, I just never changed it. And to be honest, the katakana for Naruton looks better than Naruton, so I'm actually okay with that. Except people call me Naruto because Naruton and Naruto are similar. Yeah, that's just another because the katakana doesn't sound like my actual name. That's a little bit annoying, but not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, thanks all for watching, guys, and I'll see you all next time.